Hello and welcome to another inspiring episode of Hello Yellow. And today we have the founder and creator of Massoga, which we'll find out more about. Wallis Murphy is joining us on the program today. Welcome, Wallis.
Thank you.
So I can only imagine Massoga is, a combination of massage and yoga, but I'm sure there's so much more to it. So tell us a little bit about it.
So the premise is yin yoga with massage layered on top. And it's a very special practice because it's unique in the way that we practice. We have, in a class setting, we'd have a bunch of massage therapists along with me teaching. So everyone's getting massage in each pose, which is incredibly nurturing.
My goodness, yeah, because a lot of people are drawn to yoga just for that self-nurturing side of things. So
Absolutely.
To have that combined with, the love of touch and, feeling that connection, it's really, really unique. So how did you come up with this program?
It kind of happened naturally, I want to say. It was very organic from the way that I was teaching yoga. The feedback I got was, I love coming to your classes, especially the bit at the end where you give the massage in child's pose or in shavasana, which is the final resting posture. And I sort of went, getting that feedback a lot. That's obviously an important part of people's process. So I used touch more and more, and then one of my teachers who was running a studio said, hey, do you want to do a workshop? And I was like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for that. And he encouraged me, and I started to do massage yoga workshops.
That's amazing. How long ago was that?
6 or 7 years ago.
So you were a yoga teacher to begin with?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what led you to that part of your career journey.
So it's interesting in that I didn't sort of feel that I had a calling to be a teacher or that I particularly wanted to teach. I'm an actor first, and I never wanted to be an acting teacher. Like I didn't feel aligned with that. But I got a job on a yacht, and they said, go and do some fitness training. And I said, maybe I could learn to teach yoga. That could be my fitness training. So off I went, did a yoga teacher training.
And how long did that take to do?
That was 5 weeks, really intensive. And I, in hindsight, I would have preferred to have done maybe a year of study. But the nature of yoga teaching, the industry, is that you're kind of always studying, and every year you go off and do some other course. So it's ongoing, and we learn from our students always, every day in the studio. So I actually went and I did the work on the yacht, and I was teaching a little bit of yoga, which is interesting to do considering you're not on a stable surface. So I had to sort of throw sequencing out the window. Like, you couldn't do balancing poses, standing poses were a challenge. So that was really interesting to deal with. And then when I came back to Melbourne, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do now. Maybe I should give yoga teaching a try. And I kind of just jumped in, and I went to yoga studios, and I got a job, and then I got another job, and then I got another job, and then I was teaching all over Melbourne. And then, the feedback, as I mentioned, the feedback was like, the massage that you're giving is really, that's why I'm coming to your classes.
Yeah, sign me up.
As I say, it happened organically, and massage yoga ran, I would say maybe 6 workshops in this sort of a format, and they were selling out. And then I sort of cottoned on to the fact that it was really a thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you actually started, the whole journey on the yachts and things? So roughly what age were you?
I was 27, 26,
and
27.
Before that you were acting?
Yes, and doing everything else. Working in bars and working in events management. I worked at music festivals, managing big teams to build the bars and run the bars. I worked in office admin, all the jobs.
Well, they'll help your different acting characters that you take on as well. That's my philosophy anyway.
For sure.
So back to Massoga. So you were doing all of these classes in yoga, which wasn't really something that you started out, intending to do. And then you got this feeling that everyone was really enjoying the end. And so then how do you set up a business? And how did you find out? How did you even call it Massoga? How did that come to you? It's so clever.
Well, actually, I have my dad to thank for that.
Okay, yep.
When I realised that that massage yoga was a thing, and it was something that I wanted to evolve and develop. My dad's very entrepreneurial. He's had a million jobs and 100 businesses, and so I went to him and I said, hey, I've got this idea. And we were just throwing around words and things that we could brand it with. And he was one of the things he just randomly said on the phone. He's like, Massoga, and it stuck. So then I trademarked it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us how, what can people expect by coming to, I guess your website or your class. Tell us a little bit about the business now.
So it's evolved more into retreats. It started as a very immersive experience. So you'd come into the room, the lights were low, maybe there's some candles, some beautiful relaxing music, or binaural beats. All the massage therapists were standing around the room, and maybe there was 20 or so people in the class. And I would instruct I'd take you through a yin practice. And
tell us, for those people that don't understand what yin,
of course.
Yin and yang.
Yes, very true. So yin is a form of yoga where you are positioned in static stretches and you hold them for maybe 3 to 4 minutes. In Massoga, we're pushing the boundaries a little bit. We're holding for 6 minutes, maybe even 8 minutes in more of the restorative poses. So it's quite a long time to be in a shape where your body is releasing. So as you're stretching, you're releasing emotion, you're releasing stuck energy, you're releasing tension. So it can be quite intense. We encourage students to really pull back to support their body. And we have props and cushions and blankets and things to help you. And obviously there's a lot of us in the room that can help you position your body. And then we layer on the massage. So it's very restorative, deeply healing, and for some people quite uncomfortable in certain places because, if you've ever sat in a stretch, the feeling it can cause discomfort. The primary objective when you come into the shape is to find a way to relax. So even though it might be a little uncomfortable because you're stretching your hamstrings or you're stretching your hips, that you can relax into the posture.
And who's yoga for?
Everyone.
What about the guys that are, that's not for me? What do you say to that? A lot of men are not interested and they need it the most.
Everyone says, I'm not flexible enough for yoga. I'm like, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, right.
And it's not just an inflexibility in the body, it's an inflexibility in the mind and an unwillingness to dive into our emotional body. Because, really that's what blocks a lot of us: fear, shame, guilt. There's layers there. And I think sometimes people jump on the yoga journey because they're attracted to Lululemon clad squad and it's cool, and I'm talking more about women now, and that's awesome, whatever brings you to the mat. If it's a 45-year-old guy who's an accountant who knows he needs to stretch and doesn't really know where to go, something like Massoga is beautiful because you come in your track pants. It's a very inclusive environment. Lots of my clients are a lot older, and it's about relaxation. Relaxation is a superpower.
Oh, I love
that. That
this.
is hands down what my mission is. And this became very apparent to me as I really got into trying to understand what Massoga was, because I've kind of learned along the way. It's about deep rest. And if we can find the qualities of deep rest within our system, that is where you are your best self. That is your true nature.
It's also a place where great creativity is actually born too. So
absolutely.
So a quiet mind enables you to actually think better, be creative, and actually pursue the things that have been sitting dormant as well. So that's something I've learnt along the journey. Would you see that too in some of your
absolutely
people?
Yes. Yeah. I know for myself, my own meditation practice where I have learned, and it took me many years to find rest in meditation because I was very agitated for a lot of years. It's where I am most creative. And I'll have a notepad sometimes next to me because the ideas flood through and I'm like, interrupt the meditation and write that stuff down.
Is that during Shavasana?
Yeah, sometimes.
That's when you sleep, everyone. Or you don't sleep, you're in that sort of comatose
your
state.
yogic sleep.
Yes.
That conscious rest. Yes.
That's amazing. So everyone's talking these days about parasympathetic states. Are you familiar with that? Because that actually lends in itself to exactly what you're saying,
Yes.
just finding that rest.
Absolutely. We need to encourage it more and more because we're so jacked up all the time. There's so much coming at us. We are constantly distracted, and there are so many shiny, pretty things to distract us, and everything is fast-paced. That is, to some degree, against our nature. We need to slow down. Because of where modern life is taking us, we need to do it more consciously. We need to actively slow down.
And how do we do that? Obviously, we come to you on the mat, whether we do it, physically, or you're telling me we can do it online as well, which I want to talk to you more about that as well. But how do we hang on to that post the 30-minute, 40-minute, an hour session? So that's one of the things that I personally struggle with. When I'm on the mat, it's great. I can release and relax to a point. Sometimes I can't.
Yes.
But then I go away and then get back into my crazy world.
Yes.
How do people hang on to those moments of deep rest?
So for me, it's definitely come through meditation, which is why I'm developing a little app on the side.
I want to talk about that too. We've got so much to talk about. Yeah.
And it's practice, essentially. So I mentioned relaxation is your superpower because it enables you to deal with adversity, and we face adversity all day, every day. Like, stress is a natural part of life, and if we can't deal with stress, if we can't regulate ourselves, then we're not effective. And I don't just mean effective as in we're not productive and we're not able to do all the things we need to do for work or for our family. I mean in terms of our system, the way our digestive system works, the way that our brain processes thoughts, the capacity to be able to relax is imperative. I would say when you're in a really stressful situation, maybe it's a confrontation with your partner, if you can pause and take a breath and relax your body.
I'm trying to relax right now.
You're going to be able to move through that moment of discomfort with availability and openness to their needs as well as your own. And that's, I don't think, a skill that a lot of us have because we don't practice it.
We really don't. I mean, I'd love to know. I mean, again, it's a personal thing, but I can see so many people don't really access the power of the breath. They definitely don't access the power of rest. And to be able to do all of and have this toolkit, is it just a matter of being very present and being able to draw on those skills? For example, if you're having a fight with your boss or your partner or your children, is it really just a matter of being really aware of, okay, now I need to stop and give space to that? Is that how you would say to people it's best to give access to that new learning and new skill?
It's awareness.
Yeah.
I think that is that's the sort of, that's the primary step you have to take. You have to become self-aware. And you can't do that if you're moving really fast and really busy and really distracted. They're opposing forces. So you have to take time to be still or to be slower, a walk on the beach. Great example, very accessible for a lot of us, a walk in the park.
What about those people walking, they're on their phone and they're listening to things?
It's a start. Again, it's like get there and start the process and then peel it all the way till you're in your least distracted state. Like being able to meditate for 20 minutes, you don't necessarily start with 20 minutes, you start with one, which is what I'm doing with my app.
Okay, let's get on to that because I've just started to meditate this year.
Yes.
And I started with 1 minute, 2 minutes.
Great.
I got to 5.
Yes.
And then I stopped doing that for the last few weeks. So talk to me about this app that you're in the process of developing.
So the premise is finding moments of retreat in everyday life.
I love this.
Which we started talking about a few minutes ago. So the app's called Everyday Retreat, and hopefully will be launched in about 30 days.
Amazing.
And the key piece, like your experience is you start it and you get it going and then it falls away. And why is that? Because there are other shiny pretty things going on, or life is busy, or something happens and you're challenged by something and you don't have the space anymore or the time. So this, what I'm encouraging people to do is to build the habit with just 1 minute a day. And I've got a 7-day challenge a 30-day challenge, 60-day challenge, and then other meditations and practices, breathwork and yoga that you can supplement with. But the idea is that something is better than nothing. So if you can only do a minute, that's okay. The point is to tap into the self-awareness. There's no quick fixes. We don't jump on the meditation train and expect to be enlightened in a year. It just doesn't happen like that. I mean, sure, for some people it does. You know, Eckhart Tolle, a moment on a bench in a park. You know, awesome, lucky him. That's very unusual. For most people, it is years of practice. It's like, you know, how do you, like, let's look at children, raising children. Do you just suddenly know how to parent because you've given birth? Absolutely not. You learn how to parent as you move through the process with the child. So I think if we can let go of this idea that it has to look a certain way, that it has to feel a certain way, that there is anything in line with perfect, because there's not. It's like you can't perfect a yoga pose. It's unique to you. It's going to look very different on me. There is no perfect way to do this. There just is your way.
Yeah, and I love that. And I definitely think so children of today, they're lacking a lot of resilience, but it is that pursuit of perfectionism that really doesn't exist, in this pursuit of I have to be happy all the time. I have to have, I have to have joy. And so when you're not having those days, then it's like you throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I see it in my children, but I see it obviously in adults as we've been taught to think a certain way that and then you're less than perfect, and then it's like, oh well, why bother at all? So I love the fact that you're making space for just try a little bit, and that's got to be something you've got to be proud of, just even if you've done a minute or 2 minutes. And I love the 7-day challenge. Do we get a bright shiny thing at the end of the at the end of the 7-day challenge?
Thumbs up is what you'll get.
You feel really good about that.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about your retreats and what's in store for this year.
So actually the app came off the back of running retreats and finding that a lot of my clients had this amazing experience over 3 days or 7 days, and then within a week or two it had all fallen away. So the idea for the app was, here, have this. This can supplement your practice, and you can do 1 minute a day. That's enough. So the idea behind coming on retreat, which is not accessible for everyone because of time or money or whatever the reason, if you have the opportunity to go on a retreat, I highly recommend it, because you get to immerse yourself. And this experience of full immersion, where you can cut out the distractions, like on our retreats, I encourage people to give me their phone, or at least put it on Do Not Disturb for the weekend. I'm sure if you need to check in with your family or whatever, like just be intentional and be conscious about what you're doing. It gives you the opportunity to find the feeling of deep rest and practice it, so you know what to come back to.
In the app, hopefully.
Hopefully. Yes. Yes.
And I often ask people that are sitting in your chair, that through adversity there's opportunity. Have you any examples that you can share where you've seen, a challenging circumstance where, you may have hit rock bottom, you may not have, but you may have felt a little bit of despair, but then it's given you cause to pause and then go into a new direction? Is there something that you could share with our listeners?
I think to a certain degree for me, I haven't had any, big moment in life where, it's sort of woken me up. I think I was very lucky to have the parents that I had, even though they were divorced and I grew up in a single parent environment, which some people would say is not ideal. It worked for me.
That's great to hear. It really is.
Yeah. I was lucky. I was surrounded by an amazing community, and I had, generally speaking, a great experience at Dad's place and a great experience at Mum's place. And of course, there are lots of challenges that come along with that. And certainly as an adult, processing the trauma that I did experience, because we all face trauma at some point, that deep dive into awareness, I suppose, it has been very much, it's come about because of my yoga journey, really. And I will say that began when I was 12.
Wow.
My mum took me to a yoga class. I was on a sick day from school, and I was blown away by the feeling that I had in Shavasana. At the end of practice, I lay there and I was like, what's this feeling?
That's amazing.
And I remember I have such a visceral memory of that moment. The teacher wrapped us in blankets and she put heaters at our feet. And I'm there like in a room full of middle-aged women who've all like been doing an hour and a half of really boring hatha, you know, nothing interesting about this practice at all, which is actually now my favourite kind of practice. Very simple, very slow. You know, so for me it was really, I guess, the understanding that from a very young age that there's gold in relaxation.
Wow, that's amazing. So if people want to find out a little bit more about Massoga and your retreats, where should they head to?
My website is a great place to start, massageyoga.com.au. We're also on Instagram, that's Massoga_. And then, yeah, hopefully coming soon to app stores.
Yay! Oh, thank you so much for coming on the program, Wallis. I look forward to enjoying your retreat next month, actually. So, yay, I'll see you then.
Thanks
so much for watching and thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.